Oh, hello, hello, dear friend. I am so glad to see you. I really am. I am thrilled to see you. I hope you've been doing well. Um, you know what? Can I tell you something that might shift how you see your entire marriage? Can I tell you something? Okay. Well, in one of my previous videos, we talked about heartbreaking reasons why neurodiverse marriages fail. We talked about the emotional disconnection. And, we talked about how many wives, felt like they were talking to the wall, all of those things, right? And we talked about that very deep exhaustion, that so many women go through. And in that video, I had so many comments about that particular video. But, but today, dear friend, I want to talk about something different. I want to talk about the couples who actually make it. Their marriages, they're making it. They're in it, right? They're in it to win it. That's what they're doing. And they're not just surviving, right? They are genuinely finding peace and, real connection and joy. They really are. As after 25 years in my own neurodiverse marriage and kind of walking alongside so many beautiful women like I've noticed something very specific, kind of pared it down to five keys. Okay. There are five keys that are, number one, rooted in how our brains actually work. Okay. And how we are anchored in God's grace. So those are two things. Okay. Um, and that can turn what feels like constant constant toil, constant struggle, constant, I don't know, I'm just coming up with words here, right? Into something that finally feels steady. Okay. And as we're going to talk about the five keys, I'm going to tell you something. The third key, it's the one, here's the magic. It's the one that can stop an argument before it destroys your whole life, entire day, and all of the things. Okay, so don't go anywhere. You stay with me, okay? Stay right with me. Um, if it's your first time here, I want to just quickly introduce myself. My name is Olivia Hall, and like I said, I've been on this neurodiverse journey for over 25 plus years, and my heart is to make you feel sister seen, understood, supported, and validated on this neurodiverse journey. So that's me. Let's get started if you're ready. Are you ready? Let's go. Before we actually jump in, I want to say something clearly. If your marriage, dear friend, if it feels hard, it doesn't mean that your marriage is doomed. It doesn't mean that your marriage is hopeless, dear friend. No, 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 no. This is what it just might mean. No one has ever showed you how to navigate a neurodiverse marriage in a way that actually works, that is sustainable. And what I mean when I say neurodiverse marriage, I mean you as a neurotypical woman being married to a man on the autism spectrum, or he at least exhibits those traits. Okay. If you're ready, dear friend, we're going to get into the five keys to neurodiverse marriage success. My brain kind of stuck there for a second. So let's go. Let's go ahead and get into key number one. So this key, it's the key number one is shift from deficit to difference. Deficit to difference. Okay, so this one, this first key is foundational. And um, this is actually something that Dr. Stephanie Holmes teaches. She teaches it so beautifully. She really does. So many of us as neurotypical wives, unknowingly, we start from this place. And what I mean by this is what we say and feel. We say to ourselves, something is wrong and I need to fix it as soon as possible, right? Is that you? Um, but this is what thriving neurodiverse couples, this is how they shift. And they say, we are different, not defective. They both say it that we are different. You and I are different, honey, right? We're not defective. I'm not defective as a neurotypical wife, and you're not defective as a man who is on the autism spectrum or who exhibits these traits, right? And here it is. Here's an example. It's like trying to run an Apple app on your Android phone. And yes, I have an Android phone. I do. And it's like you trying to run that Apple app on your Android phone, and then you're getting mad because it won't load. Does that make sense? Right? Okay. If you didn't get that, for example, here's an example. You want, let's say at the end of the day, you want emotional processing, after a long day, you kind of just want to, oh, my day, honey, it was so long. And, my boss, he got on my nerves today and nobody understood, blah, 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 blah. Right. And, you know, he comes in, he just wants to sit quietly. Um, he wants to quietly reset. He doesn't want to talk and he doesn't want to hear from you. Okay. Meanwhile, you like to share, you want to tell them about your day, right? Okay. So that's that whole the idea of we are different, not defective. So he does things differently, you do things differently, right? Here's another example. Okay. And the fact that you want to come in and emotionally process your day and he just wants to sit quiet. He just needs time when he gets in the door. Neither of those things are wrong. You both have different nervous systems. Okay. That's it. Here's another example. Let's say for you, dear friend, you kind of value connection, talking through things, talking them out. If there's something that, you're thinking about doing or something with the kids or maybe your business or whatever it may be. And you like to just kind of talk it out. Well, he may just connect through doing things. Okay. Like fixing things or, getting your gas changed in your car, which my husband used to do when we were first married. He doesn't do it anymore. Anyway, um, he handles the task. Maybe he's the one who he's the one who pays the bills, or he's the one that makes sure everything in the house is taken care of. If something breaks down, he's your guy, right? Um, and so meanwhile, you want to talk, you want to connect. He's connecting through doing something for you. You want to have a conversation, but he just he would just rather do something for you. Do something like in the house or your car, right? I'm just using those as an example. And there's that disconnect happening because this is what you think. I know this is what you think, dear friend. I see you. You think he doesn't even care. He doesn't care. I'm trying to talk to him. I want to share some things about what's going on or what. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. And this is what he thinks. Listen to this. Oh boy, I showed my wife love all day long. I showed her that I loved her. And I shouldn't talk like that. That's not fair because he did, right? He fixed something, he did something, he handled a task. But to you, that's the thing. You're grateful for it. You appreciate it, right? Yeah, you do. But that doesn't equal connection for you, right? Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And here's I want to kind of reframe it for you. I want to kind of say this to you. When you stop labeling it as a flaw, you know, he does it this way, you know, and all of the things. When you stop labeling it as a flaw, dear friend, you start working with the difference instead of fighting it. You start to work with it. You do. And we're talking about how neurodiverse couples thrive. Okay. So, okay, that's the first key. I hope you understand that. Okay, good, good. All right, let's go to key number two, explicit communication. You know, no more of that mind reading stuff. Okay. This one right here, dear friend, I'm going to tell you, it changes everything. It really, really does. So in neurodiverse marriages, let me tell you now, hints, hints, hints do not work. They do not work. Tone doesn't work. You're trying to be softer or whatever. It doesn't work. Silence definitely doesn't work. Okay. You know, I've tried all of these. I've tried throwing hints. I've tried changing my tone, uh, just not saying nothing, right? And those things don't work, right? You have to be clear. He's black and white. You must be black and white as well. You have to be explicitly clear in your communication. So here's an example. Um, Instead of you saying something like, "Oh, honey, I kind of feel off today. I feel off." You might say to him, "Honey, I'm feeling really, I'm feeling so overwhelmed. I'm feeling so overwhelmed. Honey, can you just sit with me for 10 minutes? Can you just put your arm around me? We just sit together. I just need to sit here with you. You don't have to say anything. Would you do that for 10 minutes?" Right? So that's an example. That's explicit, clear, black and white communication. Okay. Here's another example for you. Instead of hoping and praying that he notices the filthy kitchen, you got plates everywhere. You listen, you're busy. Listen, I know that, right? You're busy. Yeah. And you're hoping he notices the kitchen and maybe he'll, do the dishes or at least throw them in the dishwasher or at least stack them and put them together, right? This is what you can say. Instead of just wishing and hoping, you can say, "Honey, dear sweetie, honey, can you help me clean the kitchen tonight around 7?" There's no guessing there. You know, there's no missed expectations. There's no, "Well, you didn't say that. You should have been clear, right? Yeah, you didn't tell me that. You did not say that. I didn't know that, right?" There's none of that. So here it is. Clarity, dear friend, it removes anxiety for who? For both of you. I'm still a work in progress. We've been married for over 25 years, still working on that one. Okay. Still working on that one. Oh, okay. Let's go on to, that was key number two. Let's go on to key number three. And this is going to be called the safety first rule. Okay. Now, this one, dear friend, this one will definitely protect your peace. Yeah. And that's what you want. Um, a whole lot of arguments in neurodiverse marriages, you know, they aren't, they aren't actually about the issue. So your argument is really not about what you're arguing about. I can't say that. You know, most of the time, your argument is about overwhelm. Okay. Okay. You may just be looking at me and like, okay, Olivia, I'm not for sure what you're talking about. Well, here's an example. You know, let's say you and your husband are talking, right? And you're in mid conversation. He shuts down, or he just gets up and walks away, or he just walks away. How do you feel? Yep. You feel abandoned. Yeah, you do. What's going on here? Well, we were talking. What happened? Right. So let me give you another example. Let me give you another example. So, you know, we're talking about arguments, right? You both are arguing. It's starting to escalate. Your tone, you're getting a little bit up there. He's getting up there. Voices are raising. Tension is building, right? And instead of like just continuing the fight, you know, I'm going to get my point across, blah, 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 and you get louder, you use a pre-agreed signal like, you know what, I need a reset. So if it gets too much, you like put your finger up and like it's like you're tapping out. I need a reset. I'm walking away. I need a reset. I'm going to take a minute. I'm going to take a break. And for those of you who go to church, particular in the African American community, you know what this is when particularly the older churches where you would tip out and put your finger up. Put church finger if you know about the church finger. Okay. Um, but using and this is skill. This is something that you're learning. This is what thriving neurodiverse couples they do, right? To have a thriving marriage. These are just some of the skills and tools that they use. So, you know, and this is not about avoiding the argument or the conversation you're having. It's protection, right? Because you don't want it to escalate so bad that it goes off the rails. So what you're doing, you're choosing to take a break, right? So that you don't damage what you have. You don't damage that safe place your marriage is supposed to be, right? So you like, honey, I in the middle of it, in your argument, like, honey, when you put that finger up, honey, or your hand up, that means I need to take a break. And you walk away, settle down. That gives him a chance to settle down. Key number four, having a scheduled time to connect, um, a scheduled connection ritual. Okay. Um, you know, and this one, I'm going to be honest, this one will probably feel not so romantic to you. It no, it's not romantic at all, actually. At first, I will say at first. Um, but I want you to stay with me. Just stay with me. In neurodiverse marriages, um, spontaneous emotional connection doesn't always happen. It doesn't always happen naturally. It doesn't happen naturally. Um, so this is what thriving neurodiverse couples do. Guess what they do? Yeah, they create it on purpose. They have to create it. Yeah, that does take a little work. Yeah. And yes, on both parts. Yeah. And typically, I'm talking to you and I, to the wives, but in order to thrive, they create and schedule connection. It's a purposeful thing, um, which I think is great. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. Maybe a weekly marriage meeting where, you go over your schedules, where you talk about expectations and what you need for the upcoming week. And this is really a good one. Um, Going over your schedule, because most of the time, you know, your guy is not spontaneous. He likes routines. He doesn't like his schedule to change on the fly. He likes to know what's happening. So that I think this marriage meeting, that's one to really try. And so maybe you choose Sunday afternoons. Honey, what do you have going on this week? Do you have, maybe he has the plumber coming and he didn't tell you, you didn't know about it, and you need to pick up the kids, or you have a meeting, or you need to go. Maybe you're out of town for something this week and you just haven't had time to talk. Setting aside this scheduled time to connect is so important, right? Think of it as running your marriage like a peaceful little business. Okay. And here's what's true. And that may be kind of funny, but here's what's true. Structure creates safety. Structure creates safety. And safety, here it is, makes connection possible. And I think that's what you're wanting. You're wanting more of that connection. So as you can go in and schedule connection, and these type of unromantic type things can lead to the connection that you really want. Okay, here's our last one. Key number 5, having a shared mission, having a shared goal. Um, I'm gonna call it the Abigail spirit, and I'll tell you what that is in a second. But this one sort of brings meaning back to your marriage. Okay. So, communicate when everyday communication feels hard, just those normal conversations you have, and he's like, well, you didn't say that. Well, you should have said it this way. All of that kind of stuff, right? When you're like, I can't believe it again. He's correcting me yet again. Ugh, right? Um, when it feels hard and when you need something a little bit bigger than the struggle holding your marriage together by a thread, this is where I kind of often I think about Abigail in the scripture. And I really love this woman. I relate to her. She's so powerful to me. She, if you read the scripture, she leaned into wisdom and strength and purpose, even in her difficult marriage. Um, she she was wise. She was strategic, you know. And I'm gonna leave. Let's see. I'm gonna leave a. If you want to watch that video, I really would encourage you to watch um, the video about Abigail. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about in having a shared mission in your marriage. So, and again, remember, this is what thriving neurodiverse couples do. Okay. Um, maybe here's an example. So maybe you both focus on raising your children with intention. Whatever you to um, focus on. Okay, it could be children. Um, that's just an example. Okay, um, even if your communication is not perfect, even if he's gonna say you didn't say that, but you still are working towards something together. Here's another example. You build something together, like a ministry. Okay. Um, it could be anything, but you're intentional. You both are doing this together. You've agreed on a shared mission, a shared goal, right? Um, you know, and so here's the truth. When you're on the same mission, you stop feeling like enemies. It's true. You stop feeling like enemies and you start feeling like a team again. Honestly, this is the work, you know, I walk through with women inside of my course, Frazzled to Fulfilled. Because learning these keys is one thing, but actually applying them, without losing yourself in the process, it's a whole nother thing. And that's where you need support. And so if your dear friend, if you are in that place where you're tired of just surviving in your marriage, right? I will leave a link in the description and you'll also see a QR code on the screen for Frazzle to Fulfill. Okay. Well, you know what? You don't need a perfect marriage because let's be honest, nobody has a perfect marriage. I don't care who they are. No, they do not. But this is what you do need. You need a peaceable marriage. Yeah. And that really starts with understanding, right? Not fighting, not striving, not fighting against, but understanding one another, agreeing that you are different, right? And being intentional about connecting and growing together, right? Well, dear friend, if this gave you some hope, I want you to comment the word hope below in the comment section, okay? I'd love to hear from you. If it gave you hope, just type hope in the comment section. And if you're walking this journey, this neurodiverse journey, please please subscribe to this channel so other beautiful, wonderful women just like you can find this content and this information um, and know that they're not alone anymore. And I want to tell you this, dear friend, you're not alone anymore. And oh, before you go, well, I never can point right, but don't forget to watch this next video. There's help, there's hope for you on this neurodiverse journey. Well, I'll see you in that video.